My name is Dean Callix, and my marriage ended in the Maldives, even though I never left Seattle. The rain hammered against our apartment windows that Thursday evening in March, creating the kind of atmospheric backdrop that would have been perfect for one of my video projects. If only I'd known I was about to star in my own revenge thriller. "Dean, honey, I need to tell you something," Isla said, her voice carrying that particular tone she used when she was about to drop a bomb disguised as casual conversation. She stood in our kitchen, fresh from her evening yoga class, still glowing with that post-workout radiance that had first caught my attention 5 years ago. My wife, Isla Corvin, was 33 and built like she belonged on magazine covers. As a travel PR manager for Wanderlust Communications, she had the kind of job that sounded glamorous to everyone except the guy who lived with her. I was 35, a freelance videographer who specialized in corporate training videos and the occasional wedding. Not exactly Hollywood, but it paid the bills. "Let me guess," I said, not looking up from my laptop where I was editing a particularly boring safety training video for a construction company. "Another last-minute business trip to somewhere with better weather than this." Isla laughed, that tinkling sound that used to make my heart skip. Now, it just made me suspicious. "Actually, it's not work this time. Remember Jasper, my ex from college?" I looked up then. Jasper Trenix was a name that came up more often than I liked in our conversations. The golden boy who'd gone on to found some tech startup that was apparently revolutionizing something or other. The one who got away, according to Isla's college friends. "The startup genius who's too important to update his LinkedIn profile?" I asked. "He's invited me to the Maldives. His company is hosting this exclusive retreat for influencers and PR professionals. It's a huge opportunity, Dean. The kind of connections I could make there." She trailed off, watching my face carefully. I set down my coffee mug with deliberate precision. "Your ex-boyfriend invited you to a tropical paradise, and you're telling me not to be jealous?" "Don't be ridiculous. It's business. Jasper's married now, to this interior designer named Elara. It's completely professional." Isla moved closer, her hand finding my shoulder. "Besides, you know I love you. This is about my career." The thing about being a videographer is that you develop an eye for details. The way someone's expression doesn't quite match their words. The micro-expressions that reveal the truth behind the performance. And right then, watching my wife sell me on why she needed to vacation with her ex-boyfriend, every instinct I had was screaming that something was wrong. "When do you leave?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning. I know it's short notice, but these opportunities don't wait." She kissed my forehead, already mentally packing. "I'll only be gone a week. You'll barely notice I'm gone." That night, I lay awake listening to Isla's breathing, wondering when exactly our marriage had become something she could leave behind without a second thought. The rain continued its assault on the windows, and I found myself thinking about all the small things that had been bothering me lately. The phone calls she took in the other room, the way she'd started working late more often, the new lingerie I'd glimpsed in her laundry that she'd never worn for me. The next morning, Isla was gone before I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Love you. Back in a week. Don't miss me too much. Even her goodbye was casual. I spent that first day trying to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering. By evening, I found myself at Mason's bar, a dive called The Broken Record that my best friend had owned for the past 3 years. Mason Torres was the kind of guy who dispensed wisdom along with whiskey, and right then, I needed both. "She went to the Maldives with her ex," I told him, sliding onto my usual bar stool. Mason, a stocky guy with prematurely gray hair and laugh lines that had earned their place, raised an eyebrow. "And you're here instead of on a plane following her because I'm not a psycho-stalker husband? No, you're just a guy whose wife is probably cheating on him." Mason poured me a bourbon without being asked. "What's your gut telling you?" I took a sip, feeling the burn. My gut's telling me I'm an idiot. Your gut's usually right about these things. That weekend, I tried to distract myself by working on a personal project, a short documentary about local musicians. But every time I picked up my camera, I thought about all the photos Isla was probably taking with Jasper. The beach selfies, the sunset dinners, the couple's shots that would end up on her Instagram with carefully crafted captions about business networking. It was Sunday evening when I discovered the truth, and it came from the most mundane source possible, our shared photo cloud. Isla had set up automatic syncing on all our devices months ago, claiming it would make it easier to share photos. I'd forgotten about it until my laptop pinged with a notification that new photos had been uploaded. Thinking they might be some scenic shots from her trip, I opened the folder. The first photo was innocent enough. Isla on a pristine beach, arms spread wide, face tilted toward the sun. She looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy, in a way I hadn't seen in months. The second photo made me freeze. It was a candid shot, taken by someone else. Isla was lying on a beach chair, and there was a man's hand resting possessively on her bare thigh. The hand was attached to a muscular arm, which was attached to Jasper Trenix's unmistakable profile. Even in the photo, I could see the smug satisfaction on his face. But it was the third photo that destroyed any remaining doubt. Isla and Jasper kissing under a palm tree, her hands tangled in his hair, his arms wrapped around her waist like she belonged to him. I stared at the screen for a long time, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. This wasn't a moment of weakness or a drunken mistake. This was deliberate, planned. She'd looked me in the eye and lied, then flown halfway around the world to be with another man. The smart thing would have been to call a lawyer. The normal thing would have been to confront her when she got back. But I'd never been accused of being either smart or normal. Instead, I did something that would change everything. I looked up Jasper Trenix's wife. Elara Trenix wasn't hard to find. Her interior design business, Trenix Interiors, had a polished website featuring her portfolio of high-end residential projects. She was beautiful in an understated way. Dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and intelligent eyes that seemed to see right through the camera lens. More importantly, her social media showed a woman who was clearly alone. While Jasper was posting photos from the Maldives with strategic cropping that hid Isla, Elara was posting photos of design projects and quiet dinners for one. I spent 2 hours crafting the perfect message. Too casual, and she might ignore it. Too dramatic, and she'd think I was crazy. Finally, I settled on something simple. Hi, Elara. I'm Dean Callix. I believe our spouses are currently in the Maldives together. I think we should talk. I sent it through her business contact form at 11 p.m. on Sunday night, not expecting a response until at least the next day. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Do we wait or have some fun? I stared at the message, my heart pounding. She knew. She'd known all along. Wait? Not a chance, I typed back. Her response came immediately. Coffee tomorrow. Pike Place Market, 10 a.m. I'll be the one who looks like she wants to burn something down. I barely slept that night. Part of me wondered if I was making a huge mistake, if I should just file for divorce and walk away clean. But the larger part, the part that had been quietly humiliated for months while my wife carried on an affair, wanted justice. The next morning, I spotted Elara immediately. She was sitting at a corner table in a small cafe, wearing a black wool coat and an expression that could have cut glass. She was even more striking in person, with the kind of composed fury that made you want to either run away or applaud. Dean? She asked as I approached. That's me, the husband who apparently didn't get the memo about the open marriage. She smiled then. Sit down. We have a lot to discuss. I ordered coffee and studied her face. How long have you known? About Isla specifically? Since last week? About Jasper's affairs in general? 3 years? Elara's voice was steady, controlled. He thinks he's clever, but he's actually just predictable. The business trips that don't quite add up. The phone calls he takes in the other room, the way he suddenly started caring about his appearance again. Why didn't you leave? Same reason you haven't, I imagine. It's complicated when your whole life is tied up with someone. Besides, she leaned forward, her eyes glittering. I've been planning something special for when the right opportunity came along. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of screenshots. Text messages between Jasper and Isla going back months. Photos that hadn't made it to the shared cloud. Hotel receipts from previous business trips. Jesus, I breathed. How did you get all this? Jasper's not as tech-savvy as he thinks. Shared calendars, family phone plans, joint credit cards. Marriage creates a lot of digital footprints. Elara's smile was predatory. The question is, what do we do with all this evidence? I thought about Isla's casual dismissal of my concerns, her confident assumption that I'd just accept whatever story she fed me. We make them pay. I was hoping you'd say that. We spent the next 2 hours planning. Elara had done her homework. She knew about Isla's company policies regarding personal relationships with clients, the morality clauses in her contract, the sponsors who funded Wanderlust Communications events. She also knew about Jasper's investors, his company's IPO plans, and the board members who wouldn't appreciate their CEO's personal scandals becoming public. The beauty of it, Elara explained, is that we don't have to do anything illegal. We just have to make sure the right people know what's happening. What about the Maldives trip itself? If Jasper's company paid for Isla's travel, that's a violation of about 6 different policies at her company. Accepting gifts from potential clients, undisclosed personal relationships, failure to report conflicts of interest. Elara ticked off the infractions on her fingers. Her boss, Sorel, is a real stickler for that kind of thing. I felt something I hadn't experienced in months, hope. Not for my marriage, that was clearly over, but for something better than just walking away defeated. There's one more thing, Elara said as we prepared to leave. I want them to know it was us. I want them to understand exactly how badly they underestimated the people they betrayed. That afternoon, I went home and started making calls. First to Ravi, a tech-savvy freelancer I'd worked with on several projects. Then to Jordan, the lawyer who'd handled our apartment lease. Finally to Mason, because I was going to need all the moral support I could get. You're really doing this? Mason asked when I explained the situation. She looked me in the eye and lied, then flew to paradise with another man. Yeah, I'm really doing this. What do you need from me? Just watch my back, and maybe keep a bottle of the good stuff handy. I have a feeling I'm going to need it. That evening, Elara and I began our campaign. We started with the evidence, carefully documented emails to Sorel at Wanderlust Communications, complete with photo evidence and a timeline of policy violations. We sent similar packages to 3 of Jasper's major investors, along with copies to the business journalists who covered his industry. Phase 1 complete, Elara texted me at midnight. Sweet dreams. I actually slept better that night than I had in weeks. The next morning brought the first signs that our plan was working. Isla's company email bounced back with an account temporarily suspended message. Jasper's LinkedIn profile went dark. And according to Elara's contacts in the design world, there were already whispers about trouble at Trenix Industries. They don't even know what's coming yet, Elara said when we met for coffee again. Wait until they try to come home. Isla returned from the Maldives on a Thursday afternoon, golden-tanned and radiating the kind of satisfaction that comes from a week of guilt-free adultery. I watched from our apartment window as she climbed out of the rideshare car, designer luggage in tow, phone pressed to her ear with the kind of frantic urgency that told me our plan was already working. She burst through the door like a small, beautiful hurricane. Dean! Thank God you're here. Something's wrong with my work email, and Sorel's been trying to reach me, and there are all these messages. She stopped, finally focusing on me. Why aren't you helping me with my bags? I was sitting in our living room armchair, a manila envelope in my lap, feeling calmer than I had in months. How was your business trip? It was fine, but listen, I need to. She paused, something in my tone finally registering. What's wrong? You look weird. Weird how? I don't know. Different. Like, you know something. She set down her purse, her movements suddenly careful. What's in the envelope? I opened it slowly, pulling out the first photograph, the one of her and Jasper kissing under the palm tree. I held it up so she could see it clearly. The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. Dean, I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear how you explain this. I pulled out the second photo, then the third, laying them out on the coffee table like a poker hand. Or maybe you'd prefer to explain it to Sorrel. Oh, wait, you can't. Because you've been suspended pending investigation. Isla sank onto the couch, her perfect tan suddenly looking artificial under our apartment's fluorescent lights. How did you... Who sent you these? Does it matter? The question is, what were you planning to tell me? That you had food poisoning, bad Wi-Fi? Or were you just going to pretend it never happened? It's not what it looks like. I laughed, and the sound was harsh enough to make her flinch. It looks like my wife spent a week sleeping with her ex-boyfriend in paradise while I sat here like an idiot missing her. Don't be crude. Crude. Isla, you committed adultery in high definition and accidentally uploaded it to our shared photo storage. I think we're past worrying about crude language. She started to cry then, but they were angry tears, not remorseful ones. You went through my private photos. Your private photos that you automatically synced to my laptop? Yeah, I did. Funny thing about technology, it doesn't respect the boundaries of your lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Elara. How's it going? I showed Isla the message. Oh, and I should mention, Jasper's wife knows too. Elara and I have been having very productive conversations this week. The tears stopped abruptly. You contacted Elara? I contacted Elara. She contacted Sorrel. She also contacted Jasper's investors, his board of directors, and a few journalists who specialize in tech industry scandals. I stood up, suddenly feeling 10 feet tall. Turns out, when you betray people, they sometimes fight back. Isla's phone rang. She looked at the screen, and her face went even paler. It's Sorrel. You should probably take that. I'll just sit here and listen to you try to explain how accepting an all-expenses-paid vacation from a potential client doesn't violate your company's ethics policies. She answered the phone with a shaking hand. Hello, Sorrel. Yes, I just got back. No, I can explain everything. I couldn't hear Sorrel's side of the conversation, but I could see Isla's face crumbling as she listened. When she finally hung up, she looked like someone had just told her the world was ending. I'm fired, she whispered. Technically, you're terminated for cause. There's a difference, legally speaking. I pulled out another document from the envelope. Speaking of legal matters, these are divorce papers. I'm filing on grounds of adultery, which in Washington state affects the division of assets. You can't do this to me. I can't? Isla, you destroyed our marriage. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. She lunged for my phone, trying to grab it. Call Elara. Tell her to stop whatever she's doing. We can work this out, Dean. We can go to counseling. I held the phone out of her reach. Why would I want to work it out? So you can lie to me more effectively next time? Because you love me. I loved the woman I thought I married. Turns out she never existed. My phone rang. Elara's name appeared on the screen. Perfect timing, I said, answering it on speaker. Elara, Isla just got home. How's she taking the news about her job? Elara's voice was crisp, professional. About as well as you'd expect. How's Jasper handling his situation? 3 investors pulled out this morning. The IPO is officially on hold. He's currently locked in his office, screaming at his lawyers. There was satisfaction in Elara's voice. He tried calling me to explain, but I let it go to voicemail. Would you like to hear it? Put it on speaker. Jasper's voice filled our apartment, tinny and desperate. Elara, baby, please call me back. There's been a misunderstanding. Someone's spreading lies about me and that PR woman. It's all business, I swear. Please don't do anything crazy until we can talk. That PR woman, Isla repeated flatly. He's been calling you that all week, Elara said. Apparently you're just a business expense to him. I watched my wife process this information, seeing the exact moment she realized that Jasper had been using her just as callously as she'd been using me. This is insane, Isla said. You're both insane. People have affairs, Dean. It happens. It doesn't mean you have to destroy someone's entire life. You destroyed your own life? I replied. I just made sure there were consequences. She stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. What do you want? Money? I'll pay you whatever you want to make this go away. It's not about money, Isla. It's about respect. It's about the fact that you looked me in the eye for months and lied. It's about the fact that you thought I was too stupid or too weak to fight back. Fine. You want to hurt me? Mission accomplished. But this has to stop. Call off your attack dog. Elara's not my attack dog. She's my partner in this, and we're not done yet. What else could you possibly do to me? I smiled, and I knew it wasn't a nice expression. Tomorrow's Friday. That means it's time for Phase 2. Friday morning brought Seattle's typical drizzle, but it felt like sunshine to me. I'd slept better than I had in months, while Isla had spent the night on the couch, alternating between angry phone calls to lawyers and desperate texts to Jasper that went unanswered. He's not responding to me, she announced when I emerged from the bedroom. His phone goes straight to voicemail. Maybe he's busy dealing with the consequences of his actions, I suggested, pouring coffee. This is all your fault. If I hadn't contacted Elara, you'd still be lying to me and planning your next romantic getaway. I sat down across from her. Tell me something, Isla. Were you ever planning to leave me for him, or was I just supposed to be your safety net while you had your fun? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. My phone buzzed with a message from Elara. Ready for the grand finale? What's Phase 2? Isla asked, reading over my shoulder. You'll see. At exactly 10 a.m., I walked into the offices of Wanderlust Communications. The receptionist, a young woman named Tracy, who'd always been friendly when I'd picked Isla up from work events, looked at me with a mixture of curiosity and pity. Hi, Dean. She's not here today. I know. I'm here to see Sorrel. Do you have an appointment? Tell him it's about Isla's situation. He'll want to see me. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Sorrel Hendricks, Isla's former boss. He was a thin man in his 50s, with the kind of nervous energy that comes from managing creative types for too long. I appreciate you coming in, Dean. This whole situation is very unfortunate. Unfortunate is one word for it. I placed a folder on his desk. I thought you might want to see the full extent of the evidence. Sorrel opened the folder and his eyebrows climbed toward his hairline. These are very explicit. They're also very clear about the timeline. The relationship started months ago, not during this trip. Every time Isla claimed to be working late or attending industry events, she was with him. Sorrel closed the folder. I have to ask, are you planning to take this to the media? That depends. On what? On whether Wanderlust Communications does the right thing here. Isla violated your ethics policies, accepted gifts from a client, and lied about it repeatedly. If you try to minimize this or let her resign quietly, then yes, I'll make sure everyone in the industry knows what happened. Sorrel nodded slowly. I understand your position. For what it's worth, I'm sorry this happened to you. So am I, but I'm not sorry about what happens next. I left Wanderlust Communications and drove straight to the address Elara had given me, Jasper's office building in South Lake Union. She was waiting in the lobby, wearing a black dress that made her look like she was attending a funeral. In a way, she was. Ready? She asked. Let's do this. We took the elevator to the 15th floor, where Trenix Industries occupied half the space. The office was all glass and steel, designed to look innovative and cutting edge. Today, it just looked fragile. Jasper's assistant, a nervous young man named Kyle, tried to stop us at the reception desk. "I'm sorry, but Mr. Trenix is in meetings all day." "He'll see us," Elara said calmly. "Tell him his wife is here." Kyle's eyes widened as he recognized her. "Oh, Mrs. Trenix, I'll let him know you're here." We waited in the reception area, watching through the glass walls as Kyle scurried into Jasper's corner office. A moment later, Jasper himself appeared, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the past week. He was still handsome in that tech bro way, but there were dark circles under his eyes, and his usually perfect hair was disheveled. "Elara," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "What are you doing here?" "Introducing you to Dean Callix," she replied. "Isla's husband. I thought you two should meet properly." Jasper's eyes flicked to me, and I saw the exact moment he realized how much trouble he was in. "Look, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," I interrupted. "Just consequences." "Can we talk privately?" Jasper asked, glancing around at his employees who were pretending not to stare. "Actually, I prefer an audience," Elara said. She pulled out her phone and opened the voice recorder app. "I want everyone to hear what you have to say for yourself." "Elara, please, don't do this here." "Do what? Ask my husband to explain why he spent company money to take his mistress to the Maldives? Why he's been lying to me for 3 years? Why he thought I was too stupid to figure it out?" Jasper's face flushed red. "It's not like that. Isla and we have history. It's complicated." "It's really not," I said. "You're both cheating pieces of shit who got caught." "Hey, watch your mouth." "Or what? You'll ruin my marriage?" "Too late. You'll destroy my career?" "I'm freelance, asshole. I don't have a board of directors to answer to." The elevator dinged, and 3 people in expensive suits stepped out. Jasper's face went white. "Mr. Chen," he stammered. "I wasn't expecting you today." The older man in the center of the group looked around the office, taking in the tense scene. "Mr. Trenix, we need to discuss the recent developments regarding your company's reputation." "Of course. Let's go to my office." "Actually," Elara said, raising her voice, "these gentlemen might be interested in hearing about how you've been spending their investment money." She held up her phone, where she'd been recording the entire conversation. "I have 3 years' worth of evidence about Jasper's affairs, his misuse of company funds, and his pattern of lying to investors about business expenses." Mr. Chen's expression didn't change, but I saw his associates exchange glances. "Perhaps we should postpone our meeting, Mr. Trenix, until you've resolved your personal issues." They left without another word. Jasper stood in the middle of his office lobby, watching his future walk away. "You have no idea what you've done," he said to Elara. "I know exactly what I've done. I've made sure everyone knows who you really are." "And what about Isla?" he asked, turning to me. "Are you going to destroy her too?" "Isla destroyed herself. I'm just making sure she doesn't take me down with her." We left him standing there, surrounded by his employees who were no longer pretending not to stare. In the elevator, Elara smiled for the first time since I'd met her. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I can finally breathe again." "Good, because we're not finished yet." That evening, I returned to our apartment to find Isla frantically packing. Clothes were scattered across the bed, and she was throwing things into suitcases with the kind of desperate energy that comes from knowing your world is collapsing. "Going somewhere?" I asked. "My mother's. Just until this all blows over." She didn't look at me as she spoke. "Jasper says his lawyers can fix this. Make it all go away." "Jasper's lawyers are probably too busy trying to save his company to worry about your problems." "This isn't over, Dean. You think you've won, but you haven't. I'll fight the divorce. I'll claim emotional abuse, alienation of affection. I'll make sure you don't get a penny. I sat down on the edge of the bed, watching her pack. You know what the funny thing is? A week ago, if you'd come to me and been honest about wanting out of our marriage, I probably would have let you go quietly, maybe even wished you well. But instead, you decided to humiliate me publicly. I decided to tell the truth publicly. There's a difference. She stopped packing and looked at me directly for the first time since she'd gotten home. Why do you hate me so much? I don't hate you, Isla. I hate what you did to us. I hate that you made me feel like I was crazy for suspecting something was wrong. I hate that you were planning to come home and lie to my face some more. I stood up. But mostly, I hate that you never gave me the chance to be the kind of man who could have handled this with dignity. What's that supposed to mean? It means you turned me into someone I don't recognize, someone petty and vindictive and cruel, and the worst part is, I'm good at it. My phone rang. Elara's name appeared on the screen. Dean, turn on channel 7. Now. I grabbed the remote and switched on the television. The local evening news was just starting, and the lead story made Isla sink onto the bed in shock. Tonight at 6, a local tech CEO's affair scandal rocks the startup community. We have exclusive details about misused investor funds, policy violations, and the social media evidence that brought it all to light. The story was devastating. They had everything: the photos, the financial records, interviews with former employees who'd suspected something was wrong. They even had a brief statement from Wanderlust Communications about their zero-tolerance policy for ethical violations. But the coup de grace was the interview with Elara. She appeared on screen looking composed and professional, sitting in what I recognized as her design studio. The interviewer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Wells, leaned forward with obvious interest. Mrs. Trenix, how long were you aware of your husband's relationship with Miss Corvin? I'd suspected for months, but I didn't have proof until recently. When I discovered they were traveling together using company funds, I felt I had an obligation to report it to the appropriate parties. And those parties included Ms. Corvin's employer? Among others, when someone violates professional ethics on this scale, it affects entire industries. Other PR professionals shouldn't have to compete with people who are willing to compromise their integrity for personal gain. The camera cut to file footage of Jasper's office building, then to a brief statement from his company's board announcing his temporary leave of absence pending investigation. "This is insane," Isla whispered. "She's destroying both our lives on television." "She's telling the truth on television. You destroyed your own lives." The story concluded with Patricia Wells noting that both Trenix Industries and Wanderlust Communications had declined to comment further, but that the scandal was likely to have lasting repercussions throughout Seattle's tech and marketing communities. I turned off the television and looked at Isla, who was staring at the blank screen like it might come back to life, and announced that this had all been a joke. "It's over," I said quietly. "Your career, your reputation, your relationship with Jasper, it's all over. What about us? There is no us. There hasn't been for months. We were just too stupid to admit it." She started crying then, real tears this time. I never meant for it to go this far. It was just supposed to be fun, something exciting. "I know. Do you think there's any way to fix this?" I considered the question seriously. Could we rebuild from here? Could I ever trust her again? Could she ever forgive me for what I'd done to her career? "No," I said finally. "I don't think there is." She nodded, accepting it. "What happens now?" "Now you go to your mother's, you find a lawyer, you figure out what kind of life you want to build from the ashes of this one." I stood up. "And I do the same thing." "Dean?" "Yeah?" "I am sorry, for what it's worth. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix this." She finished packing in silence. I helped her carry the bags to her car, a final act of courtesy between two people who'd once promised to love each other forever. "Will you be okay?" she asked as she got behind the wheel. "Eventually." "Me too, I hope." I watched her drive away, taillights disappearing into the Seattle drizzle. Then I went back upstairs and called Elara. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Empty, but in a good way, if that makes sense." "Perfect sense." I felt the same way when I filed the divorce papers this afternoon. "You filed today?" "While you were at Jasper's office. My lawyer says it should be finalized within 60 days, since I have grounds and he's not likely to contest it." She paused. "What about you?" "Isla will probably fight it, but she doesn't have much leverage now. Jordan thinks we can settle within 6 months." "And then what?" I looked around the apartment that had been my home for 3 years, trying to imagine what came next. I have no idea. For the first time in my adult life, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to do. That's terrifying. Yeah, it's also kind of liberating. We talked for another hour, comparing notes on lawyers and logistics, but also just talking about our marriages, our mistakes, our hopes for whatever came after this. She was funny and smart and completely different from Isla in all the best ways. "Dean?" "Yeah?" "Thank you for reaching out to me, for giving me the chance to fight back. Thank you for being willing to fight. What are you going to do tomorrow?" I thought about it. "I'm going to sleep in. Then I'm going to start working on a new project." "What kind of project?" "I'm thinking about a documentary, about marriage, betrayal, and what happens when ordinary people decide they've had enough." Elara laughed. "That sounds like a story worth telling." "I think so too." After we hung up, I sat in the quiet apartment for a long time, thinking about everything that had happened. A week ago, I'd been a man whose wife was cheating on him. Tonight, I was a man who'd systematically destroyed the lives of 2 people who'd betrayed him. I should have felt guilty. I should have felt like I'd gone too far, been too cruel, been too vindictive. Instead, I felt free. My phone buzzed with a text message from Mason. "Saw the news. Holy shit, man. You actually did it." "Yeah, I did." "How does it feel?" I typed back, "Like the first day of the rest of my life." And it was true. Tomorrow, I would start over. I would rebuild my life, my career, my sense of self-worth. I would learn to trust again, maybe even love again. But tonight, I was going to sit in my quiet apartment and savor the sound of my own thoughts, uninterrupted by lies or doubts, or the constant background noise of a failing marriage. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. Isla had tried to fight it, but her legal position was hopeless. She'd moved to Portland, where she was working as a freelance social media consultant under her maiden name. Jasper's company had folded, and he'd moved back to California to work for his father's real estate business. Elara and I had coffee occasionally, comparing notes on our new lives. She was thriving. The scandal had actually brought her more business, as people admired her for standing up to her cheating husband. I was doing well too, focusing on my documentary work and slowly rebuilding my confidence. We never became romantic. We'd been through too much together, seen each other at our most vindictive and calculating. But we remained friends, bonded by the shared experience of fighting back against people who'd underestimated us. One evening in September, I was editing footage for my latest project when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Dean? It's Isla." I hadn't heard her voice in months. She sounded different, quieter, less confident. "What do you want, Isla?" "I wanted to tell you that I'm getting married." I felt nothing. No anger, no jealousy, no regret. "Congratulations. His name is Mark. He's a teacher. He's nothing like Jasper." "Good for you." "Dean, I know this is probably too little, too late, but I wanted you to know that I understand now. What I did to you, to us. I understand why you did what you did. Okay. Are you happy? I considered the question. Was I happy? I was content. I was free. I was building something new and better from the ruins of what came before. Yeah, I said finally. I think I am. I'm glad. You deserve to be happy. So do you, Isla. I hope this works out for you. Thank you for saying that. And Dean? Yeah? I hope someday you can forgive me. I already have, I said, and realized it was true. I had to, for my own sake. After she hung up, I went back to my editing. The documentary was almost finished, a story about ordinary people who'd found extraordinary strength when their backs were against the wall. It was going to be good, maybe the best work I'd ever done. Outside my window, Seattle sparkled in the evening light. Somewhere out there, Elara was probably working late in her studio, building beautiful spaces for people who appreciated her talent. Somewhere else, Isla was starting over with a man who hopefully deserved her better intentions. And here I was, in my own space, doing work I loved, finally free from the weight of other people's lies. I'd won, but not in the way I'd expected when this all started. I hadn't just gotten revenge on the people who'd betrayed me. I'd gotten my life back.